Welcome back to Bassub. So I'm late to the party talking about all of the Fear the Walking Dead news. Now, thing is, I've just been recently getting into Fear the Walking Dead. Actually, Troy's death scene I just saw about a week ago when I was watching through the series, and now I have finally finished Season 4 on DVD, so I can give my thoughts on this topic. I didn't want to talk about it before I finished that, but today I got to the season finale, and now I want to give my thoughts on Troy Otto and Daniel Salazar returning for Season 5 of Fear the Walking Dead. So that's right, if you haven't heard this news already, these two characters are going to be returning to the series in some way. We don't know how exactly it's all going to go down. Troy, that's a very interesting topic because it looked like he died at the end of Season 3, and I figured that was the case, but he very well could be returning, and I think I know why. I mean, obviously the show isn't doing as well as AMC would want it to do. It's not doing as well as it used to. Bringing in a very favorable character for the fans would help the ratings, you would think, and I think that's why they're bringing Troy back if they do it at all. Now, another thing that we could see is a flashback or see Troy return in Al's tapes. Now, I personally think the character himself is returning in present day. I really think it would be a big mistake for AMC to play this wild card, bring Troy back in like a flashback or in one of Al's tapes, and then that be it. You know, really throw the fans through a loop here. I mean, here's the thing. Troy, we figured he died, but I guess in some way he could have escaped. I mean, he got hit with the sledgehammer twice, and he was being filled by a pool of water. We took that as, okay, this character is dead, and or he is dying. Thing is, we never really saw him as a walker, so you can't really say that he was confirmed dead to begin with, and some people have speculated for his return for a while now, but I never really thought it was actually possible for this to happen until this news was released. Now, I did say that I actually did just watch his death scene about a week ago, but I've known about it for a while because it's been around on the internet and everything, so yeah, it was kind of spoiled for me, and I figured, well, I guess he's dead. Season 4 is already over with. We're not going to see him again. And like I mentioned, the show isn't doing fantastic. It's not doing terribly bad because, you know, it's doing good for just a show. Maybe not towards the Walking Dead standards or any of the Walking Dead media, but still, it's still on the air. But it's not doing as good as AMC wants it to. So they can really take like a situation like this, where I guess it was never confirmed that he was dead or we never saw it, and really turn that around. And the thing is, I don't think people are going to be mad that they did this. I'd say for about any other fandom or any other character in the Walking Dead universe, you would think, yeah, this is inappropriate really for a story like this that is really focused on realism. We have a character who took the sledgehammer to the face twice, was surrounded by a pool of water, and managed to escape. I don't think so. That really happens in comic book shows. You don't really, well, I guess The Walking Dead's a comic book show. I kind of meant like the Arrowverse shows. But anyways, this is something that people are like, yeah, this is really weird. This shouldn't be happening, but I don't think anybody is mad just because of the state that the show is in. That really goes to show what state the show is in. They do something wild like this, and people are pointing out the fact that it's totally bizarre and weird, but nobody is mad. That just goes to show how terribly his death was handled and how the show is doing as a whole. Now, I personally really liked Season 4. I think it was the best season of the show so far, even though it was so drastically different from the rest of the show, and the two major deaths in that season, that definitely sucked, but overall I still liked it. Morgan's one of my favorite Walking Dead characters. Anyways, I'm getting off track. That's basically the entire story of what's happening right now in the fandom. I want to go into more in depth on my actual thoughts now. I think this is a great thing. While it's really weird, it wouldn't happen, I don't really care. The show, like I said, I really loved Season 4, but there was really something missing. After going off of Season 3, almost the entire cast changed. More than half the cast is brand new characters, and it feels really weird. And when you have a character like Troy, where we never saw his actual death, quote unquote, we never saw him as a walker, he couldn't be completely confirmed dead, then I think it's a good idea to bring him back, because you can take a situation like this where barely any of the original characters are left, or from seasons 1 to 3, because Troy was a Season 3 character, and you really have the opportunity to bring them back, I think you should, to get those older fans back into the show and please those old school Fear the Walking Dead fans, such as myself, which I really loved seasons 1 through 3, and the drastic change, while it was welcomed for me, it felt a little weird, and all of the sudden character changes, I feel like it's a little bit too fast. I feel like I could have enjoyed season 4 a lot better if older characters were there, such as Nick or Madison. Taking this brand new story with this brand new cast, which I personally loved in season 4, and then adding on that older story or those older characters just adds a whole other thing to the show, because I love the new characters, the new story, but if you mix it in more with the old, because it's been a lot about the new and not as much about the old in season 4, then I think the show can just get better from here. You have a character, or you have characters from all different eras of the show, and Troy Otto being the character from the era of the 3rd season. I feel like a little part of Fear the Walking Dead died when Troy Otto was killed, and not because I think he should never be killed off, but because I thought his death was way too premature, that he had a lot more to do in the show, and he had a lot more potential that was never fully realized because he was killed so early on. And like I said, because of the thin roster, you barely have any of the original characters left, even from seasons 1 through 3, not just season 1. From season 1, you have Alicia in that era. Season 2, you have Luciana, and season 3, you have Troy Otto, and then you have the brand new cast. I think that'd be a good way to mix an old cast and new cast, and just really, pay homage to those older seasons, which really got forgotten in season 4, and I feel like season 3 was almost completely forgotten because you had barely any characters that were standouts from that season, except for, characters that had lasted since, like, season 1. So I think it's a good idea for him to come back to, please fans of the 3rd season, such as myself, and really just bring these two stories together, because these feel very disconnected. You have Morgan's story, and then you have the original Fear story. One's overshadowed over the other. You bring in Troy and Daniel Salazar. I haven't really mentioned him throughout the video yet, but I'm going to get into that. Then you really just fully bring these two stories together, which they did collide in season 4, but it felt just a little bit weird because you weren't spending as much time with the original cast, and it felt like a brand new show, which I liked, but felt really weird, and bringing Troy back can fix some of those problems. Same with Daniel Salazar. Now, moving on to Daniel, I think that all of us really didn't think that Daniel died, and we were just waiting for him to appear in season 4. Now, I knew he wasn't going to appear because, it got ruined for me because I watched season 4 after, listening to things about it on the internet. I just got into season 3 and 4. I watched season 1 and 2 a long time ago, but anyways, moving on. Yeah, it does suck that he wasn't in season 4, and obviously the actor himself had other things to do, like his music career, so I think that's why he wasn't, brought back for season 4, and I really think if AMC really wanted to bring him back, they would have, or they would have talked him into it, but they had a lot of other things going on in season 4. Season 5 is where this entire, collision of these different stories finally start to settle down. Towards the end of the 4th season, everything started to settle, and these two stories that were merging finally finished, and I think now is the perfect time to bring back Daniel and Troy Otto just because of how tame things are getting now. I mean, we're going full force into season 5 with this brand new direction for the show, and that's big, but what I'm talking about is that, the entire group was in disarray. We didn't know who was with who, if the group was even a thing. Now they're finally together, and you can start adding back old characters and new ones alike. Now, I've been hearing a lot of people talk about Daniel being a potential villain in Season 5, which I'm not opposed to, but, I really don't want that to happen. The thing is Daniel, great character, I really like him, and I want him to stay on the show for a very long time, at least a couple more seasons, if the show even has a couple more seasons, and I feel like if you bring him on as a villain, you're gonna have to kill him at the end of season 5 or something like that, and I don't really want that to happen. You see, Daniel, he was a character that, maybe he wasn't always on the good guy's side. I don't know if you could say that because everybody is pretty evil in the apocalypse. I mean, he was going to torture Nick, so that's one thing that you could say that, sort of crossed the line in the show, but overall, I think that he can change. I know he has a lot of demons, and he's one of those characters that before the apocalypse, he was already like that, but I do think that he could change, and he can join the group, and then he can add so much more, just because of how much of a badass that he actually is. But hey, if he was a villain, he'd be a great villain. I absolutely love the character, but we wouldn't be able to spend as much time with him. He turned into a true antagonist, which up until this point, I don't feel like he was a true antagonist. He was someone that maybe you didn't like every once in a while, but you still really liked the character, and he was an ally for the show. Once he becomes a true antagonist, you kind of have to dislike him, and I don't want to do that, and then you're going to have like one of the characters kill him or something. I don't want to see that either. So if he does return, I hope that he is a good guy. He starts, working with our group. That would be great to see. But if he doesn't, I'm just glad that he did return in some way. Now here's the thing, if Troy were to have survived and this isn't a flashback or in one of Al's tapes, then you would think he'd be with Daniel. You'd think Daniel would have saved him for some weird reason. I'm sure they'll give us an explanation. Then he'd be with Daniel up until the point where they meet. And if that were to happen and Daniel was a villain, that'd make Troy villain too, and then you have, at one point, you're gonna probably have to kill off both of them because they're villains. I know there's exceptions like Negan in the original Walking Dead series, but yeah, that's a whole other thing. That's Negan. He was meant to be locked up in that cell. Other villains, you feel like you just always have to kill in the end, and I don't want to see that. And while Troy, yeah, he was kind of a villain, you could say, he was sort of an ally too. He was really in that gray area, sort of like how Daniel was. But if you turn him into a true antagonist, you turn the fans against the character. And I don't think that AMC and the writers of the show are dumb enough to do that. If they are, I don't want to see that. Overall, I'm glad that these two characters are returning. Daniel, I think he's just returning in general. Troy, we don't know how he's going to return, and if he returns like for the main story in the present day, that would be great too, and I don't want them to be antagonists. I know they have like antagonist traits, and they'd make good villains, and it doesn't make too much sense for them to be helping people, but at the same time, I feel like it can be done, and they can be pushed in that direction, and if there's any chance that they could, I would like to see that. But that's all for today. I hope you guys all did enjoy today's video. I have more Fear the Walking Dead and The Walking Dead videos planned for the future. But this was actually my first Walking Dead related video. I've been wanting to talk about the series for a very long time, and I've really gotten into it now with The Walking Dead Season 9 and Fear the Walking Dead Season 4 and 3 that I've been watching recently. But yeah, I have more videos planned on Season 5 for Fear the Walking Dead, Season 9 for The Walking Dead, and a bunch of other videos planned in the future. So definitely stay tuned for that. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and look at the other videos that I do make. Maybe you'll like those too. Like I said, this is my first Walking Dead video, but I do plan to do more. And if you like the video today, make sure to subscribe to get more Walking Dead videos, as well as other topics that I do cover on this channel. But I hope you all enjoyed today's video. Let's talk about this in the comments, because this is a very crazy thing that's happening in the Fear the Walking Dead series right now, and I'd love to talk to you guys about it. So like I said, leave your thoughts in the comments, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Peace.